Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online episode review. This one is going to be for Season 1, Episode 10, Crimson Killing Intent. Before I get into the review, I just want to mention just a quick kind of channel update thing. There won't be any Avatar Top 10 video this week, just because I'm a little bit busy. I completely forgot that the Kanan comic was out this week, and I had to get that reviewed, which took up a space that this review is meant to be in, but I wanted to do this review, so that'll be kind of postponed until probably next week. I may upload like the podcast, the Avatar Online podcast we're recording tomorrow onto YouTube, just to get some sort of stuff out there. But either way, there is some pretty important podcasts coming up. The next one, not this Sunday's podcast, but the one in 2 weeks' time, is going to be our basically Avatar Online podcast preview for Smoke and Shadow Part 1, so you'll get some really in-depth discussion on that book, more so than just myself talking about it. But anyway, Sword Art Online. So we're still on Volume 2 of the DVD set, Part 2, with Episode 10. With the original source material novels, we are on Part 1 of Aincrad, the first book. Still, as I said, they really, like, these last couple of episodes, apart from the two Yui episodes that are basically coming up, it's all in this, because this book primarily focuses on, like, Floor 74, Floor 75. And for the most part, this is exactly the same. There are some few extra lines of dialogue here and there, a few extra little world-building type things, but for the most part, the anime is very accurate to the book on this one. And this is an episode I really like. I like how, in another anime, this episode probably could have been separated into 3, maybe 4 episodes because of how much happens. You could have potentially devoted one episode to the Kirito Heathcliff duel. You could have devoted like a whole episode to Kirito, Kuradil, Godfrey's kind of expedition, the whole laughing coffin thing. You could have made that probably like a 2-parter and like have Asuna show up in the second part. And then you probably could have had a whole episode devoted to just the kind of aftermath, the real big moment in Kirito and Asuna's relationship. But no, it's all just in one episode, and for me, it doesn't feel overdone. It doesn't feel like there's too much in this episode. It feels like this naturally progresses and perfectly fits into one episode, because it all basically follows this idea that, you know, Asuna feels like in many ways Kirito being around her so much recently has gotten him into trouble. It's gotten him to do all this stuff that he never wanted to do as a solo player, that she kind of got him into this duel with Heathcliff, which has made him join a guild. She nearly got him killed, and all of this sort of stuff, and just to end it with, no, he's sticking around her because he feels the same way she does. It's really strong. But anyway, let's get to the start with the duel itself. They don't spend too much time on this, and I kind of appreciate it for that, because at the end of the day, this isn't a duel to the death. It is just the way they set it up is like, first person to drop into like yellow HP loses the duel. And it's really interesting just because they set it up that, okay, you have a unique skill, Heathcliff does as well. He has like Divine Sword, which boosts his attack and defensive skills. And I like how they set it up that it's basically Kirito is all attack versus Heathcliff, which is almost all defense. And the fight works really well in that sense, because you have Kirito doing all these flashy moves with 2 swords, whereas Heathcliff is just dodging with his shield and every so often like dodging out of the way, attacking with his sword. And when it comes down to it, I like the fact that they focus on Kirito's kind of style of battle, that he gradually is speeding things up without using sword skills. And then the second he gets a hit in, like he scratches Heathcliff's face, which shocks him, then he turns on, I think it's Starburst Stream, and just goes for it. And in the middle of this combo, he basically has the match won. Like, either Heathcliff underestimated Kirito and how strong he was with this skill, or objectively Kirito just beat Heathcliff here. But Heathcliff is forced to use the system because he's obviously Ahihiko Kaiba, and basically, I don't really have the best words to describe what he exactly does, but basically he shortens the animation for his shield to move into position. Like, it's not just the idea. Obviously, was Kirito kind of blasted his shield out of the way, and he didn't have enough time to bring it back before his sword came around. But he shortened the animation so that basically his shield went from here to being in position in like a quarter of the time. And it's the big moment where Kirito begins to realize that Heathcliff is not just a normal player in the game, and he has his first suspicions about him actually being Kayaba. Because throughout the whole game, you realize that Kirito's thinking constantly about, is Kayaba just like in a control room somewhere watching the game play out on all these like cameras? That's not really much fun. He'd want to play the game with things and kind of set things up, because if he just left the players to do stuff by themselves, they could die on floor one and nothing would happen, and he'd get no fun out of it. So maybe he's in like a high position in the game somewhere, helping people clear the game, so you can get to those end game areas and you have people with so much hope and expectation, and then it gets kind of shattered on like the last floor or something like that. That seemed to be the idea that they were going for. But either way, Kirito loses the duel because Heathcliff basically cheats using the system, and Kirito's forced to become a member of the Knights of the Blood Oath. And it's an interesting moment because he obviously is kind of sad about joining the guild. Like, he's just like, oh no, I'm in another guild. And I like how they just devote a little bit of time to Asuna asking Kirito, why are you so against guild? I get that you're a beater and stuff like that people see you differently because you're so powerful in the game and stuff like that. You have this reputation because of what happened with the floor 1 boss. But you do care about people. Why do you stay away from guilds? Like, there's a lot of guilds that would accept you just because of how powerful you are, and I assume that also because of the whole dual wield thing and how much he was integral in defeating most of the bosses, he would be accepted in a lot of guilds. And we get this really emotional scene where he just tells Asuna for the first time the story of the Moonlit Black Cats, which we saw in episode 3. And he hasn't mentioned it in a while. And now we know Klein knows about it, but it's him telling her for the first time, and her emotions as she hears this story and begins to understand why he is the way he is about things, and that, you know, even just partying up with her on the few occasions that they have up to now has been such a kind of chore struggle to actually do, in that he constantly thinks he has to protect everyone around him in case that happens again. And she realizes this and confirms to him that you don't have to protect me because I'm going to protect you. And the kind of hug that happens there is a really strong moment in their relationship because he believes it, he accepts it, he doesn't like push her away or anything like that. He realizes that she probably is the only one in the game who can protect him in the same way he protects other people. And that's a key point in the rest of this episode. The middle section of the episode focuses on basically Kirito's test as a Knight of the Blood Oath, which is primarily there to heal this rift between Kuradil and Kirito because they're both in the same guild. Godfried goes along with him, he's like a commander, and yeah, again, they could have spent like a whole episode focusing on like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do like the floor 55 boss or whatever it is, and focus really heavily on Kuradil and Kirito's relationship and the issues there. But no, they just get straight down to it. They skip from that first meeting scene to them having the rest. The poisoning happens immediately. Godfried is killed. Kirito's about to be killed. Asuna shows up. We know that Kuradil and Kirito have these issues. Kuradil feels like Kirito embarrassed him, and especially once we find out that he's a member of the Laughing Coffin, we flash back to the Illusionary Avenger episodes when Kirito scared off the Laughing Coffin guys, and you see the issue that he's beginning to have with some of these murder guilds and stuff like that. So you understand straight away what the big issue is here. You don't need to focus too heavily on that, because fundamentally what the episode is about is Kirito and Asuna's relationship. And in this we get some of the most probably like brutal killing scenes, in that the way he kills Godfried is basically visual representation of effectively what a sleep PK is in the game that was described to us in earlier episodes. Just he's helpless and he just gets hacked apart and is killed. and it's really like crazy. And then just how insane he is when he's like hacking away at Kirito. It takes a lot longer because Kirito's on level 96 at this point in the game, which is still like 10 levels above Kirito, so that's why it takes so long. But still, it's really emotional because he just sees his health go down and he's almost beginning to accept death. And the one thing that kind of keeps him going and trying to avoid it is he remembers Asuna. And then he tries to stop, and then she shows up and protects him, referencing the scene earlier on in the episode, which was great because she does save him here. And it's a moment that he's not going to forget. It's a moment that kind of shows him that he was going to die here. If he was still a solo player here, he was going to die here. And it's not because he's a member of a guild. It's because he's in a party with Asuna that he doesn't die here. And I think it's just a really strong moment as she saves him, and then shows how powerful she is by just completely owning Kuradil. But the one thing that stops this is just that she doesn't want to kill him. And he takes advantage of this and disarms her, and then Kirito steps in to protect her. And in many ways what happens here is that he kind of saves Asuna from having to kill someone by killing him himself. Now it's to protect everyone and stuff like that, but still it is about the fact that he killed someone. Now this does come back, this issue of like, wow, he's not at all fazed by the fact that he just killed someone. Right now, in the kind of heated moment, he's just like, he protected Asuna. It comes back in Gun Gale Online, this whole issue of the people he killed in the game, which I really appreciate, but right now, where we are in this episode, it's not meant to be the focus, which is, I think rightfully so. It would be kind of unnecessary. She still apologizes to him and kind of has this kind of freak out moment where she just realizes, like, you've been perfectly fine in the game up until now, and just the few days we've spent together now, since we've teamed up, you've had to join a guild, you've nearly been killed, you've now had to kill someone because of me. I'm really bad for you. Like, I'll stay away from you from here on out. And she's getting really upset. And I suppose the thing is, at this point in time, we know how she feels about him. We know that she basically loves him. But we don't know Kirito's thoughts. We know he's like attracted to her and stuff like that, but it's only at this moment where he basically reciprocates the feelings and finally kind of shows that he feels the same way, and he initiates the kiss, and their relationship effectively begins at this point. And from there we get the kind of, at the time, it's this really like meaningful moment where he's just like, I want to stay with you tonight. And it's just like, oh, okay. He's just kind of, he's got to the point now where he cares about her so much that he wants to kind of always be with her. But you get the later scene and you realize that the way she took this was was that she basically thought he was like asking her to have sex. And it's really kind of humorous when you kind of look back on it, and that she kind of just like blushes and is just like, okay. And Kirito literally just means, I just want to stay with you. And then you cut to the next scene, and it's just like, okay, they're staying together. And then they have the dinner, and then they immediately cut to her standing up, taking off her clothes, and it's just like, oh, whoa, you really thought he meant that. It's a really funny scene, but also one that I'm just kind of like, I really appreciate the show for going there. Not because we almost get to see Asuna naked or anything like that, but because this is the key relationship in this show. And I have a lot of respect for the show just willing to even reference the fact of these kind of two still relatively young characters and the potential that they were going to have sex. And especially with a lot of animes like this, where it is for the most part 12s and some of the episodes are 15s, that even like say in Naruto and stuff like that, it has hints at romance, but it never really does anything with it. Until, at least with Naruto, until very, very much towards the end. There's so many animes out there like that. Bleach does the same thing, as far as I'm aware. One Piece is the same. It really doesn't go anywhere with its romances until the very end. With this, they've had this relationship now. Asuna and Kirito are together, and they don't waste any time, and they just kind of hint at this, because at the end of the day, they're in this situation where they could die any day. So you kind of take away a lot of the real life stuff, like, oh no, we're really young, we shouldn't do this, but that this isn't maybe the only time they get to have this experience and stuff like that. Um, but I just like that they even went there. And that's why I really like this relationship overall, because they really just go places that a lot of other relationships in anime don't really tend to go. And in that this is a really deep, meaningful relationship. The two have found each other already. And I in many ways, would compare it to Katara and Aang. In the current comics, their relationship has no issues, really. And you may think, oh, why is their relationship all perfect? But at the same time, these two have been friends for so long, and they didn't really have any issues as friends. The two do care about each other and they love each other. Why should there be any issues? And I kind of like that that's what the way they just went with this thing. That too many shows go down the road of, oh, the two characters are together, now they have all these issues and stuff like that. And I like how even this kind of misunderstanding, he's just kind of like, I didn't mean it that way, I just wanted to stay with you. And she kind of gets all angry because she was embarrassed. But then you kind of cut to the scene where Kirito proposes to Asuna. And again, this is another big moment in their relationship, because yes, it's just in-game marriage, we've had it explained before, but what's important is what Asuna said about the idea of in-game marriage. She finds it very romantic, about the idea that you share basically all of your secret items with each other and stuff like that, and she does find this idea romantic. Now, it doesn't have the exact same meaning as like real life marriage, but the way Kirito sees the game, the way Asuna has learned to see the game, the two of them roughly treat it the same way as real life marriage, and that especially some of the way they talk in later episodes, they treat this as kind of like a kind of pre-proposal kind of thing, that this is just a really big step in their relationship, and that the two of them realize that if they get out of this and meet up in real life, they probably will be together for the rest of their lives and stuff like that. And again, just this is the sort of stuff you don't see addressed in any other kind of thing. Now, of course, it's an anime, it's a crazy fantasy anime with all this stuff going on, but there are elements of the other relationship that seem, okay, that's a bit much, you're maybe going a bit far too quick. But at the same time, a lot of the feelings here you understand are real given their situation. Everything is heightened to a crazy degree. They're going to die every day. So of course their relationships would be all the more intense in this situation. But again, it's just a really kind of lovely moment at the end where the two of them just agree to basically move away from the front lines for a while and get married and live in this house for a while, because given everything that's happened in the recent couple of days, weeks, they're afraid that something's going to happen to each other, and they can't really concentrate on just clearing the game. They have to have some time to themselves to just explore their relationship. And I really like that. And so, it's an important episode again. A lot happens. But I really like it. I don't feel like any of the three important parts of this episode were really underdeveloped. I like the way the duel went. I like how quick and fast paced the whole poisoning plot was. And I liked how they made it very clear that this episode is about Kirito and Asuna, this idea of they can both protect each other. And they both protect each other in this episode. Asuna saves Kirito from dying, and then Kirito saves Asuna from having to kill Kuradiel. Really well done. So that is the review of the episode. In comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. But other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.